Hi, friends. Welcome back. I'm Emily.
And I'm Whitney.
And you're listening to Cousins Talk Crime. Whit's over there real focused in her case. She's so excited to bring us part two. I did forget to mention last episode, but now that we got our Patreon up and running, we did get a pledge for the bestest friends ever tier, so I'm super excited about that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that was Luann. So thank you so much, Luann. Your support really means the absolute world to us. If you haven't found us over on Patreon, please do that. That's just a little way to help support us, helps us grow, and helps us keep this going. If you haven't followed us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all the things, I've got them all listed above so that you can find us there. Just click all the buttons, give us all the reviews, whatever you want to do. We appreciate it.
We do. Thank you guys so much for that.
Yes.
And I know our live streams, we're going to try to figure out how to do that. And so if you subscribe, it won't be for everyone next time that's on Facebook. We're going to try to
Yeah,
get it.
our next one, which will be this Friday, the 17th, you said it was? 17th. So this Friday, we will be having our second live stream, and it will be exclusive on Patreon.
Yeah.
So you will need to go over to Patreon for that one. I think we've got all the logistics figured out now to make it run a little more smoothly over there. So we will catch you at our live stream on Friday.
Yeah, we loved chatting with you guys last time.
Yeah, and we will do a Q&A over this case with these four ladies and just some other stuff that we've got going on at the time. So super duper excited about that. So give us part two. I'm excited.
Okay, so this is part 2, and I'm going to pick up kind of where we left off. If you guys haven't listened to the part 1 of this case, go listen to that first because there's a lot of information and a lot of this won't make sense unless you...
Yeah, you'll have to listen to part two.
Yeah.
Part one, I'm sorry. None of this will make sense, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, in late 1997, a story would start to spew from the Lawrence County Jail in Bedford, Indiana. An inmate came forward with a tale he had heard from one of his cellmates that was now circulating around the jail. A man named Roger Long, who was in jail on an unrelated charge, made the claim that he and 2 other men were responsible for kidnapping and killing Pam Foddrill of Linton, Indiana. Long also claimed that he'd killed at least 3 women to his former girlfriend. He said one woman he killed was placed in a body of water. The other woman he killed, he said her nickname was Eve. He claimed he buried her in a cemetery. So as these rumors were like circulating throughout the jail, police took notice to them, and I think they were already looking at Roger Long. And then they really started to do some investigating. And then in 1997, there were 5 individuals were arrested, all with connections to the brutal murder of Pam. They were Roger Long, Jerry Russell, John Redman, Wanda Hubel, and Pixie Fowler. And Pixie was the ex-wife of John Redman, and I believe Wanda was the ex-girlfriend of Jerry Russell. And Roger was the inmate who was bragging about his involvement of the multiple local crimes. The confession was horrifying. It was a tale of abduction, torture, and then eventually murder. And they said this was all fueled by a drug-induced rage. I think all these people at the time were like doing drugs. I know Wanda was given a reduced sentence because she gave testimony against Roger Long, and she kind of laid out the story for the police and investigators.
Sorry, hate that. I always hate that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to give other people up, so we're going to let you have a shorter sentence. Whatever. I hate it. Hate it here.
So I'm going to go back to Pam. Pam Foddrill was born on March 10th, 1951, to Dell and Irene. She was one of 7 children, and the family resided in Greene County, Indiana. Dale, her dad, passed away on November 26, 1980, at the age of 68. Pam was disabled. She had the mentality of a 7-year-old and a teenager's appearance. She was only 5 feet tall, weighing 100 pounds. In 1995, she resided with her mother, Irene, in Linton, Indiana. And it was August 18th when Pam left her home and walked 2.5 blocks to the local IGA grocery store, where she purchased some instant breakfast mix. It was only her 3rd time going to the store alone. She walked out of the grocery store and disappeared into thin air. That was the day that her mom, had reported her missing. Investigators learned Pam was last seen around 11 a.m. at a stoplight in Linton, where the search dogs last picked up her scent. And like I said, these people didn't get charged for another year or so after her disappearance. And I'm going to recap that on December 3rd, 1995, 2 hunters found skeletal remains in a sleeping bag in Lawrence, Illinois, which is 45 miles southwest of Linton, Indiana, near the Wabash River, and the remains were identified to belonging to Pam. Police immediately treated the case as a homicide, and they did not mention a cause of death, but did tell the family that Pam had died from trauma to the head and neck. The family stated that Pam never had a boyfriend. She wasn't interested. The family was her life. Her sister said she was mature in many ways. Although she had trouble with math and reading, she had good common sense. And that was from Darla, the victim's sister. So I'm going to trace back to then more than 2 years after she disappeared. The police then did arrest all the people that I mentioned prior. 45-year-old Roger Long in October 1997 for Pam's murder, after 2 inmates informed the police that he confessed to killing Pam. And at that time, Long was in Lawrence County Jail on a parole violation. Through the ongoing investigation, police eventually arrested John Redmond, Jerry Russell, Rhonda Hubel, and Pixie Fowler. Hubel told police the group saw Pam walking and convinced her to get into their vehicle. I think they were like in a white van. And they took her to Redmond's house, which was not far from Pam's home. Before I go into what Wanda told the police that happened that day, I do want to give a trigger warning because it does involve sexual assault and torture, and sometimes that can be really hard to listen to. So I don't go into a lot of detail, but I do want to give the warning if you want to stop and not go into what happened. But Wanda did tell police that they saw Pam walking and convinced her to get into the vehicle. They took her to Redmond's house, which was not far from Pam's home. She said that all 4 of them sexually assaulted Pam over several days, possibly a week. She said that Wanda said that she's the one that got her into the vehicle. For a week, they held her captive in Redmond's home. According to testimony, like I said, she was sexually abused at times. She was violated with a baseball bat. She was also then stabbed to death, but the group also burned and tortured her while the victim was alive. So these people were doing horrendous things to her for, it sounds like, days to a week-long period of time.
Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
This is another one of those things I will never understand. How do you get that many evil people in one place?
Yeah.
Like, I understand that some people are evil and that could happen, but how do you get a group of 5 people that are willing to do that to a person all in the same room?
It's sickening.
Like, how do you bring that up to your friends? Hey, do you guys happen to have a mutual interest in torturing women? Let's do it.
It makes zero sense to me.
Oh my God.
Witness also testified that Long stored Pam's body in a storage shed for about a week before disposing of it near Lawrenceville, Illinois.
Just put her in a shed. What the? I'm going to try to not use profanity in this podcast. I'm really trying, guys.
So, Roger Long trial occurred in the fall of 1998 and lasted until early 1999. And like I said, Wanda testified for the prosecution as a star witness. She pleaded guilty to criminal conduct in exchange for her testimony and was sentenced to 20 years. So Wanda got 20 years for her involvement. She's the one that like got her in the vehicle.
Yeah. Just like the girl that poured gasoline on Shanna's chair. It's fine. As long as you tell us you did it, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And she probably didn't spend no 20 years in prison.
Right. No, I don't think she did. So in April of that year, a jury found Long guilty of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, criminal confinement, and the murder of Pam Foddrill. In May 1999, a judge sentenced Long to life in prison with no parole. Shortly after, Redmond and Russell's trials began, and both were found guilty of the same charges as Long and also given life terms with no parole.
Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
At least there's some justice there.
Yeah. Both Long and Russell appealed their sentence in 2001, but they were denied.
Good.
On September 20th, 2019, local media reported that Russell may get a new sentence. His defense now claims, over 20 years later, that he was wrongfully accused and wasn't present the day Pam was abducted.
Okay. Even if you weren't present the day Pam was abducted, were you present one of the days where you were torturing her?
Right.
I'm sorry, but I don't think you went to prison for picking her up. I think you went to prison for torturing and murdering her.
Right. In this article I found, so Jerry Russell is the one that 2019 he would like giving reports that he may get a new sentence. And this article I found is actually from November 2023.
So very recent.
Very recent. And it says this week the case landed before Indiana Supreme Court. Russell's lawyer argued her client cannot legally be punished by life without parole because he has intellectual disabilities, and they weren't considered when Russell was twice sentenced. So she's claiming he has disabilities and he shouldn't have got life with no parole.
Is there documentation proving that that is a fact?
So that's what I was going to get into. After his appeal, he was granted a resentencing. So Johnson said Russell's resentencing was imposed without a review of evidence documenting Russell's intellectual disabilities dating back when he was a child. She said no matter how heinous the crime, that life without parole for a person with an intellectual disability isn't like in court standards. And that's what she's basically arguing. This was also quoted that he is not intellectually disabled. He has not met that burden. She said he can read, write, manage money, problem solve, travel, follow rules, provide care, prepare meals, have relationships. So the state's arguing that he is not, and that even though she's saying that there is evidence that he is, that's what's going on right now. You can pull up if you go on my case and you can look at it because it's ongoing right now. I think when I looked in like December 23, so about 5 months ago, they each gave like big reports with their arguments on it. And I don't think the judge has ruled anything on it yet. I feel like they are right now waiting on him to make a decision. So I don't know what it's going to be. And I did briefly read through. I mean, it's long.
Yeah.
His lawyer submitted, I want to say, and I could be wrong, a 45,000 word document. Like, it is a long document.
Oh my gosh.
So he is still in the process right now of trying to get a new trial and be released.
And that was
Which,
which one?
Jerry Russell.
Jerry Russell.
Yeah.
It was Jerry something.
I know the state submitted a document with all kinds of evidence saying that, because Russell's attorney has been arguing for a while to get him out, and I know it's been failing, but like I said, this recent one is still ongoing. But the state submitted like a lot of evidence. Some of it says that Russell admitted to a friend that he had sex with Pam and killed her, also stating that he was bragging about it to his ex-wife. And that while he was incarcerated, Russell threatened people and any witnesses who would testify against him. And they're saying this is like not someone who's like mentally, disabled like she's claiming. Russell also attempted to convince others to lie on his behalf. He asked another inmate to lie for him and tried to bribe him with legal help, with giving him a house in Kentucky, a motorcycle. So this is the same guy that she says isn't mentally capable, And that he made admissions to fellow inmates. It says that his home was searched on October 21st, 1998, and blood was discovered in several places within Russell's home. So right now, those are basically some of the arguments, that are going on between the state and his lawyer who's claiming that.
Defense lawyers will reach. They'll reach for just about anything that they can get.
Yeah. And that I feel like is what his attorney is doing.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, if you're capable of knowing right from wrong, then you're fine. You know what I mean? If you have the sense to have people try to lie for you, cover stuff up, you're fine.
So, and Russell's counsel is attacking the state's evidence, like including the credibility of the witnesses. Wanda's Fowler, she's trying to say that basically their statements, weren't true, that they're just not credible. And she's saying he got convicted basically on other people's testimony,
Just hearsay.
Yeah, just hearsay. Like I said, this is still ongoing. So I will keep you guys updated on what happens. I don't know when I was on here. I don't know when it's due back, like when he's supposed to make, a decision. I did bring up some news articles where Pam's family, they said they were going to go to all these hearings and stuff and sit and be like, he's not, you know what I mean? We do not want him released.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, I mean, anyone could get on my case and read these. Like, I mean, it's like 100 pages long of both sides, arguing, because he claims he wasn't even there all of a sudden. So, and that he's not mentally capable. So, if you do have the time and want to read through the documents, there is some interesting, it gives a lot of details on the case.
And this is what, nearly 30 years after it happened? I mean, sometimes people forget things about themselves. Yeah. And so maybe he's just completely blocked it out of his mind. I wasn't even there.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's what I wanted to get into is even though Pam, she had people convicted in her murder, Roger Long, even though he was in jail bragging about other women he had killed, no one has ever been convicted of the other crimes. They've never linked him or the others to the missing people or missing person. Eva's the only one missing. They found the other ones. There's been no justice for Eva Hale, for Rita, for Audra Page. There's been no one found guilty in those cases. So it would be nice to get some answers, or I don't know. It's crazy that this Roger Long was bragging about other women, you know,
He
but
even stated Eve,
yeah,
didn't
he
he?
stated Eve. He stated that he put one in water, which
And he said 3 other women, right?
Audra was found in a creek. One was found in Shake Lake, you know, and then he said he buried one in a cemetery.
Why wouldn't he? I feel like at this point you got life without parole. Why wouldn't you just say, why wouldn't you just come out with it if he did it?
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. These were all crimes committed in the same area and within a 2-year time frame. Like there was mention of a serial killer, but yet, I mean, they thankfully Pam, you know, they got who killed her and like 3 of them are doing life without parole. The 2 women who gave stories are out, but 3 of them did get life without parole, but they've never been tied to any of the other crimes in the area, which I'm sure the police has looked into it.
It makes me wonder if this guy pulled a, that we just don't know about, pulled a Larry Eiler where he's like, I'll tell you about all these other ones if you reduce
Yeah,
my sentence, blah 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 blah. You
yeah.
know, I'll tell you about these other ones, and the police may have been like, "Psst, no, like
Right,
we're
they
not,
got him life without parole.
yeah,
So
we're not entertaining
if
that."
he is the bad guy that committed all these other crimes, I mean, he's not coming out. So why give him, you know what I mean? If he's trying to be like, well, I'll tell you more if I mean, no, let's let him stay. I don't want
Yeah,
him. But I do believe the families of these other victims deserve closure. I mean, it would be nice to know what happened.
it may not come until a deathbed confession like Larry Eiler, you know, and if it was him, and then, you know, these things magically stopped whenever he went to prison, right?
Right, yeah,
Like,
whenever they all went, yeah.
yeah, Eva was the last one that we're thinking of in this.
Yeah, Eva, and then they got arrested in 1997, so a year after
Yeah.
Eve, and there was no, from what I looked into, there was none in between. So, yeah, the it basically stopped the serial killer, you know. But I mean, they can move. It could have been 4 different like 4, who knows? But to me, it just doesn't make sense. And I know I mentioned this to Emily, and this was just, I like putting these cases in and getting on Reddit,
Yeah.
even though Reddit's not someplace we can fact check, you know, like it's not a newspaper article. It is just people on the internet. But if you put this story in Reddit, there is a comment that says Pam's family did their own investigation. And like I said, I do not know how true this is. I'm sure Pam's family could come forward and confirm this, but they supposedly got a tip that it was Roger Long, who was the guy that later gets arrested, but he had not been arrested at this time. And they supposedly drove out to his house. This is on Reddit. So when they got there, they said this Roger Long had his own little like place cemetery set up in his yard. So like a Halloween theme, think of it that way. You know how people decorate and have their own little, but I mean his wasn't like a Halloween. His
It
was
was
like
year
an all
round.
year round. Yeah.
What a creep.
Yeah. And he had this cemetery set up, and they said on one of the headstones that he had in the cemetery that it said, rest in peace, Pammy bitch. And they actually reported it to the police. And because they had got, someone had told them that, you know, it was him. So, like I said, this is on Reddit. So it could be completely made up. This may not even be true, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Like, I would like to know, did this guy actually have like this cemetery set up in his yard? Like, was he like this crazy? I mean, he's obviously disturbed. I mean, he tortured someone.
Yeah.
murdered her, kept her in a shed, disposed of her body. But if any of Pam's family listens to this, I would really like to know if that story is true, if they went there and saw this cemetery, because that is bizarre to me.
It is, and it makes you wonder that if they are all connected
Yeah,
and it
like,
was him, what if he had the other names in his little cemetery too?
right. Like, and like cemeteries, like Eva Hale went missing from a cemetery. He had a cemetery set up in his own yard.
And
Like,
he said he buried someone in a cemetery.
and
Did we ever dig up his yard to see if it was his cemetery that he buried
right.
Eva?
I do not know. I did read somewhere where they did dig up, I want to say, some graves. I want to, and I could be wrong, the Marco Cemetery, that didn't come of anything. But I don't think the police were taking his confessions lightly. I think they were looking into them, especially after he was
Mm-hmm.
convicted of Pam's murder. I think they were like, oh, we need to look into he's brought. But was he the type of guy that was watching the news and was just going to be like, I'm going to say I did that one and I did that one, you
Yeah,
know?
he
I
may have
mean,
been.
there's something wrong with these people, anyway, to want
Yeah.
to do that kind of thing. But there are murderers out there that want to take credit for crimes they didn't even commit. So was he doing that, or is there a connection with all these cases? Because it doesn't sit right with me.
Mm-mm.
To me, there's too many similarities. I mean, we had two older women. One was 79, one was 88,
Mm-hmm.
and then two women who were disabled, like mentally. Like someone was preying on the weak. I feel like I wish we had someone that could look into where they could put markers on if this was the same person,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
not, that committed these crimes.
Hey, our investigator friend that we've been messaging on
Yes.
Facebook, give us
We
the
need
goss. I
someone to look
saw you
into
were
it.
messaging him on Facebook, and I
Yeah.
didn't read any of the messages because I didn't want to know anything about this case. So
Yeah.
now I want to go back and read what you guys were talking
Mm-hmm.
about.
There were a lot of people probably doing bad things back then. And I mean, say maybe one wasn't connected, but I mean, four of them in a span of 2 years, it's just hard for me to believe there wasn't any type of connection. Especially with Audra Page and Eva Hale, they were 3 months apart. And they were also miles within each other. They are the closest
Yeah.
ones. I think it was like 12 miles from Pleasantville to the Marco Cemetery. So,
Yeah, and those ones happened only a couple months apart, too.
mm-hmm. Yeah, two elderly women within a short time span.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can say this was one person that targeted Audra and Eva, and
Mm-hmm.
then a Roger and someone else. If they're
Mm-hmm.
not connected, I will just say if these aren't connected and this Roger guy and his group of friends didn't have anything to do with Eva or any of the others,
Yeah.
that person is living their life out here. You
Mm-hmm.
probably know them.
Yeah.
You may sit by them in church. They
Oh,
may,
that gives me goosebumps.
I know, they may be sitting at the table next to you at the Mexican restaurant. They might
Mm-hmm.
be, passing you on the road saying, "Oh, excuse me," in Walmart when you're sneaking past them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that person, if it's not these guys, is probably a great, outstanding citizen right now
I don't know.
under everybody's nose.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't drug related. These were little old
Yeah.
ladies. So we
Mm-hmm.
can't say that this is something that
Yeah.
this is probably someone just if
Crime of
Roger's
opportunity.
not
Yeah.
if this guy's not connected to that, it is someone in this community.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that.
Oh, yeah. They were way too close together.
Yeah, it would have to be someone in this community because yeah, they're close together and it happened over like a 2 year span of
Mm-hmm.
time that it wasn't just someone visiting, it would be someone from this area.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're listening to this and you did it, let the
Yeah.
guilt get to you and let us know.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I
And
know
if
that won't
anyone
happen, but
has, I know it's been so long, but turn your information into the police, give tips. Like,
it's
if,
never too late.
yeah, it's never too late. Like, I don't know.
I don't either, but yeah, it's never too late.
Because these families, they deserve justice. They deserve to know what happened to their loved ones.
Just imagine yourself and like what you would do if
Mm-hmm.
your 79-year-old grandma was just scooped from a cemetery. Like, how would
Yeah.
you feel?
Her car, her keys on the ground, her purse, but never seen again. Visiting her
It
brother's
kills
grave.
me knowing that someone that I love like is experiencing fear.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's got to be hard. It's got to be awful for the family. Like, I can be sympathetic for it, but it's hard. Like, it's so much harder for the family.
Mm-hmm.
They deserve
Yeah.
answers and justice. Absolutely. Because she would be 107 right now. We're not expecting to find her,
Right.
but we just want answers as to what happened. And her family just wants to lay her to rest.
Yeah.
You know, she obviously felt very strongly about laying people to rest and
Yeah.
visiting them, visiting their graves and
Yeah, I feel
whatnot.
like her family was like her life and she liked going out there and
So she deserves the same. She deserves the
mm-hmm.
same treatment.
Yeah, 'cause I read I feel like her headstone like has her name and date of birth, but no, they don't know when, you know what I mean? It's just blank 'cause
Yeah.
they have no idea. And that's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they have it decorated and they said like, but it's really sad.
Is her headstone out there in Marco Cemetery near her brother?
I don't know if it's out in Marco or not. I'd have to look. I forget which one because I feel like there was two separate where they kept some and but they all might be out there. I'd have to look into that. Well, that is where we're going to end part 2.
That's the end of this story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and we will, if there is updates on the Jerry Russell trial that's currently going on with him trying to appeal his sentence,
Yeah.
I will keep you guys updated if I hear what happens with that.
Good. I hope he stays.
Mm-hmm.
I hate when people get paroled.
Yeah, because he did get life, but yeah, his attorney is fighting really hard for him to get out. The last update was, like I said, in December of 23. And if you go to my case, it is active. So
Interesting.
we will keep you
Interesting.
guys updated on that.
Yes. And so Whitney is going to be bringing us our very first bonus episode that is exclusive to our Patreon pledges.
Yes. And when we did our Facebook Live, we had some people that were in the live and they were talking about this old blue hill house in Bloomfield, Indiana. And I guess in Bloomfield, it's like a haunted place, but there was no really background on why, it's haunted. So I am going to bring you guys what actually happened at the old blue hill house.
Wow. So some
Mm-hmm.
people may know that it's haunted, but they may not know exactly what happened
Yeah.
as to why.
Yeah, because I guess like people, around Halloween go there and supposedly see a girl's ghost. And so I'm going to give you the details of why the old Blue Hill house is haunted.
Ooh, I'm excited. So this bonus episode will be released this Thursday.
Yep.
So the next, like, regular case we're going to be bringing that'll release on Tuesday is a story about Joseph Smedley. He was a young college student in Bloomington, and he went missing, and his body was found in it was like a creek, like 5 days after he went missing. And it's a crazy story. It was initially ruled a suicide, and that is still how it is handled. But his family is very, very adamant that it's not a suicide. So we're going to dig into that one. And his sister, Vivian, is actually a friend of the podcast, and she will be joining us as a guest to talk about the case and to answer any burning questions that we have. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.